Hello and welcome. What the fuck? We'll just restart that. Blip, 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 blip. Here we go. Hello and welcome to Three's a Crime, a true crime podcast. I'm Tori.
I'm Emily.
And I'm Lindsay.
And that's our intro.
Here we are professional podcasters.
We're podcasters, bitches.
This is my
Drum
intro.
roll.
Do we say her last name?
Yeah.
Let's just say
Let's say first name.
Yeah.
Kathy.
Yay!
So we have our very first patron, and she's amazing, and she's in her own little pledge group. So
Yeah.
she did not join the Sweet Little Babes, the producers, or the talent. She joined her very own badass.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she definitely.
And she, what's the word?
Donated?
Nope.
No.
Pledged
Pledged.
$50 a month because she's amazing.
She is
I
So
love you. Thank you.
Yeah. Lindsay will have to meet you
Yes,
someday because
please.
you're so fabulous.
I'd
so
love to meet you.
Kathy is our very first patron, and I'm obsessed with her, and she's amazing.
Yes.
And amazing and amazing and amazing, and I love her.
Yes. She is
pretty
absolutely
great.
fantastic.
We love you, Kathy.
I love you. Thank you so much.
So we need more patrons to
Yes,
be
please.
on the cool level with Kathy, because right now you're just really not doing great. So
Emily is very disappointed.
I'm really disappointed in
She's
you
dope.
guys
We're
right
very
now.
disappointed in
we
you.
do have two Patreon accounts.
Yeah. So on Podbean, where you can also listen to the podcast, if you go to patron.podbean.com/threesacrime or patreon.com/threesacrime. And we'll post them like on Instagram or whatever.
We have 3 levels. So the Sweet Little Babe is $5 a month. The Talent is $10 a month. And then we have the Producer, which is $20 a month. And if you go on to either the Podbean or the Patreon websites, it'll actually list out all the cool shit that you get when you become one of our patrons.
And one of them you even get to be on the show if you want, or you can call in. That's one of the things. So you get extra cool special stuff, and it's a monthly subscription.
Yeah.
Monthly.
It's usually the first of the month.
Yeah, and
Because I pledged Heather.
yeah, and it's just saying like, you bitches are bad. We fucking support you.
That's right.
Here's some money. And just for the record, the money goes all into producing the podcast, which is a lot more than we thought.
Yes.
Which is fine.
all those articles that say, "Oh, you can just do
You
it."
can just start like I
from
mean,
your
you
phone.
technically can.
You can,
like,
but
but
it's
we
not
want it to be
gonna-
good.
so it just helps us with the equipment and improvements, and it like all goes back into that.
Yeah,
right now.
it'll
So,
go probably into the
I don't want money for my
merch
pocket
and just like,
yeah,
stuff like that.
Yeah, Lindsay's making merch.
But yeah, we are going to be making and selling merch here shortly. And
yeah. So we're gonna get merch. We're gonna get fun stuff. We're also
Yeah.
there's gonna be a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
We're just having a ton of fun with it.
yeah,
Sure.
and one of
So-
the things that we really are trying to kind of raise some money for with Patreon is for us to be able to take field trips and take
Just get
you
places.
along with us.
Just weird
Yeah,
shit.
we just want to bring the weird shit to you.
And we love talking about it. And we want to share it. We just
Yeah.
spread the weird shit.
Yeah.
Spread the weirdness.
Oh. When I asked Kathy, it was because I didn't want to ask like my husband or my mom. I was like, I need someone who loves me and loves the podcast that is not related to me.
Yeah.
And I will say Kathy is one of our
favorite people in the world.
Favorite people, but also one of our biggest fans and our most supportive.
You could do
fans.
anything. You could do anything in the entire world, and Kathy would just like.
She'd be like, I support you 100%.
Yeah. Maybe you don't like be a murderer, but
Yeah.
like if you did, you'd call her to help you bury the body because she's supportive.
I love her.
She would definitely bail
love
you
her already.
out.
She would. She would
Bail you
absolutely.
out.
She would sell her house to bail you out.
She would.
Oh.
But
Yeah.
then she would also be like, hey man, like
She'd
that
be like,
wasn't
"Hey,
cool.
maybe don't
You
fucking
need to-
do that.
maybe don't kill people.
So, Kathy, we love you.
We love you.
What first? Scribe lady.
Scribe, let's get Marilyn. Marilyn Manson.
Fucking Brian, whatever his
Warner.
name was. I almost said Brian Cranston. That is
Oh
not-
no!
No,
he's too
we-
precious.
Brian
Brian
Cranston,
Cranston
we
is a
love.
gift.
Yeah, he is.
He is
He's
so pure.
He is a treasure.
Marilyn Manson,
No.
0 out of 10. Do not recommend.
No.
Okay, tell us all about. So this happened a few weeks ago.
Feb 1. He was. Evan Rachel Wood posted an Instagram.
And Evan Rachel Wood is from. She was in Westworld. and-
Yes, pretty much that I was a victim. He groomed me. I think she was 16 or 17, I think, because they were engaged when she was 19.
I didn't even know that they dated.
Mm-hmm. It was
Well, dated. Can
Yeah.
you date like
And
a
then
17?
after Rose McGowan.
Apparently, he never treated her like that. But she's like, that doesn't mean it didn't happen. Like, other people
Right.
weren't.
Yeah.
Well, she was, I mean, one of the first people to call out Harvey Weinstein.
Yes, she was.
I was listening to an episode of Morbid. It's one of my favorite podcasts. So say hi.
We
I
love
just-
you. Hit us up, ladies.
Ash and Kel. Ash and Kel. No, Kel's your last name. Ash Kel is her name. Ash and Elena. They were talking about someone, I cannot remember her name, but it was like the same story. She was groomed from the time she was like 13 by a high school coach.
I
Oh.
listened to that
you did
one.
listen to that episode?
That was not a. I mean, it was a good episode, but that was not
was
a good story.
gnarly.
It really that would.
It was a gnarly one.
Yep.
Okay, so Marilyn Manson is disgusting.
Yes.
But again, okay, like
He's trash.
I was thinking about this, and like for me, like the whole Bill Cosby thing was like a shock, and it devastated my 80s childhood heart. And now I can't watch the Cosby Show anymore because
Me
it's
either.
completely tainted.
What was it like being alive in the 80s? I can't even. I can't
I've
even
never
look at you.
liked her
She
anyway.
only wanted me here because
It's going to be a bloodbath.
there's about to be a blood. Okay.
We're really gonna bring you some true crime,
Some true crime that's
this
literally
week.
happening right fucking now.
right now. But I mean, like that was a shock because he was like America's dad.
Yeah.
But Marilyn Manson,
I know it's not a
like,
shock at
this
all.
was not a shock to me. All right, so he was, you know, obviously a geeky kid, probably had a hard time growing up, and then he got famous, and you know, he used that to be a predator, and that's
Yeah.
just fucking gross.
So was he like a okay? Besides like the weird, we're talking about what was the dude on the Elisa Lamb? What was his name?
Morbid.
Oh, Morbid.
Duh.
Not the Morbid podcast.
Not the Morbid podcast. the guy.
Morbid the man.
But like, did he have anything besides his weird?
I think everybody just thought it was kind of like his shtick.
That's what I mean,
Yeah,
because that's not like what
exactly.
makes someone do
Yeah.
those things, right? Morbid is
Exactly,
a
yeah.
completely perfect example of that. Of like, just because we're into really weird shit. We
Right.
might not be as extreme about it, but like,
Right,
everyone's
yeah.
got their stuff. So I didn't know if there was like, if Marilyn Manson had any kind of history of doing anything shady prior to
Well,
this.
I don't know. Lindsay, you had some personal experience with Marilyn Manson, did
I-
you not?
So I used to work at the Knitting Factory, which is a venue here.
It's
in
like a
Spokane. It's
concert
kind of
house.
all over, yeah.
Is it all over?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
There's
thought
one,
it
I
was
think
just
it
here.
started
Oh.
in Brooklyn. My friend Jen was the manager of the band part, and she would have me come and be a runner, which is pretty much you're just the band's bitch. Like,
Mm.
whatever they want, you get them.
What's the weirdest thing they ever asked you for?
Manson, I didn't meet him because he was never around, but I had to find spiderweb pantyhose. And it was,
As you do.
yeah,
As one does.
Yeah, as
it
one
was
does.
fucking April. So it's not like,
It's not like Halloween or something.
God, I looked everywhere, looked at like Hot Topic, they didn't have any. I mean, because then he wore them and I was like, oh, cool, he's wearing what I bought. But then, you know.
But now we hate that guy.
Now I
fuck
just
him and his
fucking-
spiderweb. But you did a good job getting those for him.
So back to Marilyn Manson. A ton of women at this point have now
Have come out now.
Come out. So
After Evan Rachel Wood.
Yeah, I think there's 5 or 6. When Evan Rachel Wood and he were engaged. She was 19. He was 38.
Ugh, gross. Creeper.
And since then, since this all came out, he's dropped from his label, from all the TV shows that he was going to be on, and his longtime manager
He was on TV shows.
dropped him. He's started, yeah. He was a bigger deal to my generation.
Yep. The one just behind mine.
Because he was so different and so like opposite of fucking Backstreet Boys, and I was scared to like him because I was a Christian then, so I was like, oh god, I'm going to hell. But then my best friend Jeff and his dad went when he came here to Spokane and saw them, and I was like, your dad's so fucking cool, Jeff.
You also worked as a masseuse there.
I did, yes. I was
Factory.
a massage therapist.
That's the thing at the
The knitting factory.
For the artists. Who all have you gotten to rub down?
Who have you gotten to touch?
The first person I ever gave massage to was Connick Jr.
Who I love.
My
And
God.
He was a sweetheart. He was so nice. And this was like years ago, so he was doing some Broadway. Oh no, he was doing his like touring.
That's so weird.
Show.
That's so weird. You touched that, dude.
I did. I worked for the Nine Inch Nails concert that was in Montana.
Oh, now see, here's the thing that I'm glad that you bring up Nine Inch because I've seen Trent Reznor get pulled into this Marilyn Manson,
I
deal.
forgot to look that up.
and that bothers me because I've always been in love with Trent Reznor.
Well,
Like,
I think they like really parted ways.
because I didn't get to look into it too deeply, but I saw that there was like a connection there, and somebody saying, "Oh yeah, well when this happened to me, Trent was there and he did stuff too," and I'm like, no. Not my Trent. Like, I mean,
Oh my god, I don't want to know either because I love Trent.
I don't know who
know.
any of these people are.
Nine Inch Nails.
I know who Nine Inch Nails is.
Oh, that's the lead
Trent
singer.
Reznor is the lead singer.
Well, I know
of
that
Nine Inch
now.
Nails.
I don't know if you know, but I'm 27. I was born in 1993. I'm the sweet little babe. Sweet young babe.
That's the year before I went to high school.
Okay, so sorry, we keep derailing you.
That's fine. That's
Poor
fine. I mean, he really is just a piece of shit.
He just sucks. So what's happening with him now? Is he like
He's just denying everything. But LA County Sheriff's Department is now investigating the abuse allegations against him.
I would think Evan Rachel Woods would be passed. Is like
That's
statute
that's
of
the other thing. So
limitation.
so she created the Phoenix Act, which was signed into law by the California governor to extend the statute
statute of limitations?
yes, on domestic violence from 3 years to 5 years. And it took effect in 2020.
So a few questions. And I am totally not into, like, before I ask these questions, please do not think I'm like victim shaming or anything. I just always like to know the information. Is there any proof that she has? Like, has there been, or has it just been word of mouth so far?
I think it's word of mouth with her and the others that happened a while ago.
Right.
They might have proof that we don't know about that they haven't
Yeah,
You
released.
should listen to that Morbid episode of that girl and her
no,
coach.
no.
It was a pretty rough one.
It is. It is a rough one. It's a very good story. They tell it very well, but
It's
yeah,
just sad.
It's
and
a
gross
very.
and makes you feel really icky.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's pretty gnarly.
There are just teachers that like they're good people.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
like when a teacher cares about the student and not just like the curriculum.
Well, and this guy cared about the curriculum.
Oh,
Curriculum.
The curriculum. But I don't even want to make a joke about it because it was so horrifying what happened to the girl in that story. And so many other students that he continued to do that. And I think he's still eligible to
He's
teach
still a
today, or he's still a
teacher.
teacher today,
He
which
still
is
has
just
a teaching.
That's disgusting.
so.
too.
Yeah,
Where is this at?
she-
Where is this at?
Oh
What
fuck!
state is
It was
this? It's like, what the fuck is this?
God damn
Where
it!
is this?
Not the mid.
I wanted to say it was the Midwest.
I could somewhere
Ohio or
around that, yeah,
Iowa
like Ohio
or-
or something. And he was her coach, and he groomed her from the time she was like 13.
I wanted to
It's
look it up
gross.
so we can tell
Awful.
people which episode it is that they should listen to.
Wow, I really hope they reach out to us now. I'm like, Morbid. Go listen to their podcast.
We
and
really
also
do like
ours.
Morbid.
Morbid.
Did you?
Oh, I think it was the tragic death of Emily
Emily Morris.
Oh, okay.
So it's episode 207.
It's a really good one.
the Morbid podcast.
It's really sad.
I know it's hard to say, like, it's a really good episode.
It's a really good episode, but it's
that
really
will
awful.
devastate
What do
you
you
and
think
make
of
you
the
need
podcast?
therapy.
We should talk about Cecil.
So we all this last week watched the Cecil Hotel documentary that came out on Netflix.
You guys finished it?
Yeah,
I
I
finished
finished it.
I binged all the episodes
Oh,
in
I-
one night.
I
Me too.
wanted.
Yeah.
I had to watch. I watched
I
with
know.
mother,
I know.
so we had to wait.
Mother.
Mother.
What's mom's name again?
Janet.
Mom.
Damn it,
Oh.
Janet.
Damn
I
it,
Damn
love
it,
Janet.
Janet.
you.
I do know that reference. I just showed Michael that for the first time, like last year. He had never seen.
What?
That's Rocky Horror Picture Show, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
so I have a
Right?
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a thing about Rocky Horror. So when I was a kid, there was a movie called The Amazing Mr. Blunden. And that movie is from like 1970 in England. It's like nobody's ever heard of it. Like you can't buy it. But every now and then, like Amazon will play it. Anyway, it's an old movie and it's about these kids and they go back in time, whatever. Anyway, one of the main characters dies at the end and there is his tombstone pillar thing. So years and years and years later, I'm watching Rocky Horror and, you know, damn it, Janet, and they're in the cemetery scene. And I'm like, holy shit, that's Mr. Blunden. And it doesn't have the top portion, but it is the same. It was just
Oh my
crazy. Like
gosh.
nobody else in the world would know that but me. Case, and if anybody else has seen The Amazing Mr. Blunden, which is a great story. Okay, so
Cecil
Cecil
Hotel.
Hotel. So we all watched that.
I'm shook because that's not how I thought it would end.
That is not the ending that I was expecting either.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. So,
Skip
yeah,
past this if you
spoiler.
haven't watched it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Five.
You've had enough seconds. Okay. Cecil Hotel. What?
yeah.
I didn't know. Like I knew about that case, but I never really got into it. And I was like, oh.
I knew that I thought it was foul play.
I remember.
Yeah.
I was, like,
I remember
positive.
seeing the video and being like, "Huh, that shit's weird." But I don't remember them finding her, so I don't even know that I knew.
I remembered that. I remembered the water tank.
Yeah.
I
that
specifically
whole part.
was like, yeah, she's in the elevator and then she ends up in the water tank on their roof.
But
But
that's
that was
all I
all I
knew.
knew. Yeah.
But the entire time that I was watching the documentary, I'm like shouting what I think are plot holes because I'm like, the maintenance guy went up there. They show him opening the hatch in like the reenactment, so you don't really question it unless you're somebody like me, where I'm like, did anybody ask him if it was open or closed?
But then
Everybody
it
just
actually, like-
assumed it was closed, and I think he closed it before he went down, which is maybe why the police found it closed.
Probably what I would
But
do.
then they get to like the final episode and they're like, was it open or closed? And this little Spanish guy is just like, yeah, it was open.
We're like all this,
Yeah.
all for years of all this.
All this bullshit.
I don't know.
I was furious. Okay. Tori was like, I'm unsure why you were so mad at her. I was furious with the manager.
Blonde lady.
Blonde fucking
The
bitch.
blonde fucking
Sorry.
lady.
I was she
I had mixed feelings about her.
I
I,
feel
got
like
weird vibes for sure.
I got weird vibes and I was like, you worked there for 10 years, but you did nothing to better the hotel, but you continued to complain about it and act like a victim with it, but you didn't try for any change. And I was like, it just really frustrated me. And I was like, is she still wanting to work for them? Because she was like making excuses for why it even happened and why it's.
I think the part that got me when she was talking about Lisa obviously having an episode, and when she was just like, you know,
the
like,
place that
like
we
what was I
live,
gonna
it's just
do?
normal.
Yeah, what was I
gonna
gonna do? The cops, you know, like, would they have even come? And I'm like, I don't know that that's.
I
the
don't think that that's your
point.
call to make.
Right.
If they don't
Exactly.
come, like you did
Right.
everything that you could, and
It sounded
all
like
you can do
she
is ask for
was
help.
Right.
making a big fucking like
Scene.
She was more than.
And I mean, and it was clear. I mean, obviously, these girls that she was sharing a room with, you know, who are getting post-its saying leave and go home and all of this stuff. Like, the hotel's solution was not to kick her out, which I thought was kind of odd, was not to, you know, be like, hey, do you need us to contact someone for you? They're just like, oh, we'll just put her in her own room. She'll be fine.
Exactly. We'll just put her in this shit little room to make it worse.
I feel like I always try and say things that are controversial, but I'm not saying it to be controversial. It's because that's how my brain works.
That's fine.
So don't ever think I'm like
She's not trolling.
dick. Yeah, I'm not a troll. I promise. I'm a nice lady.
She brought us coffee
I
today.
I did. When there's half of the hotel full of people that have lived there for forever,
Yeah.
and then the rest of the hotel is like
high end.
Still, yeah, I'm trying to think of if I was in that situation and I'm like, okay, half the people are in this hotel and there's like some fucking woman walking around. I think I also would probably be like
calling the front desk and just being like, "Hey, like this chick,"
like it's just weird. I don't know. I've never been in a situation where I'm like, oh, everyone around here acts weird, so I just wouldn't do anything. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
that's
granted,
That's what I was frustrated with.
I've not been to Skid Row, but like there was a dude
have.
downtown who was definitely having an episode and was like karate chopping people as they walked by. This was like downtown in front of that Irish place that's right across from the park.
O'Doherty's.
Yes, in front of O'Doherty's.
Delicious.
And I called the cops.
I get
and the
free
cops
drinks
came.
there because I danced on the bar once
Oh,
on my
nice.
21st birthday.
Continue. That's where I went for my 21st birthday. I didn't dance on the bar.
I only did because they told me I could have free drinks for life. Or I think it was half off. I don't know. I haven't been there since I turned 21.
But was it like Coyote Ugly style dancing?
It was like you just get on the bar
was
and
it-
you can just do whatever you want. We'll give you half off drinks. And I was like, it's my birthday. And they gave me a little card that said, cool, you dance in the bar, you get half off drinks.
I'm kind of imagining Emily getting up there and doing like
I wouldn't do
what
much.
are the people that do the
Like
Michael
Irish step
Flatley.
dancing
Yes.
or whatever.
No, the river dancing.
river dance? His- what does Chandler say? His legs feel about as independent from his body.
I've been to the Coyote Ugly bar in San
Yeah.
Diego.
Oh my god, you've been all over.
We always try and do like fun things while
As
we're
you
there.
should.
Like go to Skid Row.
I
Yeah,
didn't
what-
go to Skid Row actually.
What?
This was so at my very first leadership we went to LA. I don't remember the name of the hotel, but it was by the Staples Center, which is like right in the middle of downtown. It was like right across the street. And I remember like looking at Google Maps and I was like talking to the person at the hotel and it says Skid Row on the map and I thought it was like a joke. I was like, that's a name. That's the name. Like that's actually like on a map. Like I thought that was just like how we call Hilliard or like Felony Flats or like, you know, you just have like your name. I was like, Skid Row is like a name. She's like, yeah, like it's an actual place that people live.
Yeah.
So I haven't like been there, but it was right
Near it.
Well,
just
then
close
you were
enough to make me a little nervous.
Well, then you were probably very close to the Cecil because
Yeah.
the
Well,
Cecil
yeah,
is right
that's
there.
the hotel, same conference
Right.
that Kelly stayed at that hotel.
The two things about that documentary. So you had the lady that pissed you off. The two
Yeah.
things about the documentary that pissed me off. Actually, it didn't piss me off. It made me really sad. Was the Morbid guy. And you know, it's just a really good reminder to everybody.
Don't be a douche.
Yeah, don't be a douche. Like you gotta wait for all the facts to come in. And web sleuths, you don't have as much information as the police have.
Yeah.
So
Well, they even said
be
sometimes
helpful.
it hurts.
Yeah.
It can hurt the
And I
investigation.
mean, this poor guy, like he tried to kill himself.
And the
he
only
can't
connection
play
was
music.
like he was at the hotel like
A year
6
before.
Yeah, like before.
A year
he
before.
made music about
You know.
weird stuff. Like
Yeah.
those are the only two things connecting him.
And the thing was, when I watched all the stuff that the web sleuths had put together, I'm like, I don't see how this would implicate him in any, like, yes, there was a video of him where he like, it's a girl running and she gets killed at the end, but she didn't end. She was in a forest. She wasn't in a water tank.
also,
she was
like, it's a
stabbed.
music
She was,
video.
Yeah, and I
look
mean,
at half of the other fucking black metal, death metal videos that are out there.
Yeah.
It's just like it pissed me off when he was like, I can't do
he
my
can't even
art
play.
anymore.
Yeah, he
I can't do my music. I was just like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
This is
So-
what bullying does.
Yeah, it does. And that's the thing is, even if you feel like you're justified in doing it, bullying's bullying, and just knock it off, because that's one thing I just really am not okay with. The other thing that upset me was the whole thing about Skid Row. The fact that it was created to push these people to this area and really keep them in the poverty and crime and, the unsafeness of that area. And now that they have the ability to monetize that area, the Cecil has been sold and it's going to be luxury, apartments.
Which is also, side note, insane.
Which is insane. Just that gentrification of like now where are all these people going to go? And, just shoving all the homeless to one area is not solving your homelessness problem.
How
And
do you solve that?
affordable housing. I mean, some people choose to be homeless. It is the life that they want to live, and you're not going to get them to do otherwise. My college thesis was on the deinstitutionalization of mental health care facilities. And it was like, part of the big homelessness crisis in like the late 90s, early 2000s was because all of these mental health facilities closed. They weren't getting the money that they needed. And so these people were self-medicating. And then they're self-medicating to the point that they are now on the streets and homeless and, So I mean, it's not an easily solved issue, clearly, because we haven't been able to do it. When people are homeless, I feel like, it's kind of like when we talk about our sex workers and the less, they're less dead, or they're less, like they're not really people. So like if a homeless person gets murdered, it's like, oh well, they were homeless, they probably did something to deserve it. And that just really
Grinds your gears.
Grinds my gears, traps my ass. The whole
Do you know
thing.
that the homeless population in the Pacific Northwest takes more care of their animals than like any other part of the country?
Yeah.
So like every time here, if you see a homeless person with an animal, the animal will always be like fat and happy.
I was gonna say the animal always looks
super well behaved, like
Mhm.
great. They always have like a vest or a coat on
Yep.
too when it's
Mhm.
cold. It's just the best.
Wait, do we have anything else to say about
So
Cecil?
Cecil, I am going to try to do my next thing on the hotel itself because
Because the documentary
really...
didn't go much into
No.
the hotel.
Can you really talk though about the guy, the
Wunder-
whatever his name was?
Yes.
The guy
I
that
want
was the
to.
journalist, or said he was a journalist, and he was there to cover like the prostitution on Skid Row.
Yes.
And then he was like murdering prostitutes on Skid Row.
That guy.
I want to hear more about what
'Cause
he was up to.
I also want to get into like the paranormal part of it.
Yeah.
I was convinced that was a shoe.
It was her shoe.
I don't know. I watched it so many times.
So did I. And I was like, that's just, it's her. When she turns, you see the back of her shoe.
Where's the shoe? And I just remember.
I yelled about the hatch thing. That was the thing that really bothered me the most, because I was just like,
they did a good job covering every detail of it.
My mom did the
really
same thing you did. She was like, "But what about this?" I was like, "Mom, there's one more episode."
And I was
Let's
the
see
first
what
one that
happens."
had watched it. I was the
Yeah.
first one that had watched it. And so I'm like texting you guys like, oh, this is making me angry. And you're like, hold on, I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, I was like, "Mom, we gotta wait. We gotta just see how it happens."
Yeah, they did a really good job
They
of
did.
explaining it and like going through. I love when they go in and they're like, so we actually stood in the elevator and like looked at all the buttons that she pressed, and like all of that totally makes sense. And all the things that like I wish I was smart enough to think of those things. I'm just like, oh man, that bitch in the elevator, some shady shit's going on.
Yeah,
and they're like, but what buttons is she pushing?
That's what I wanted to know, was because you can't tell from the video like
You'd be
which
such a
button she was
better
touching.
web sleuth than
You'd be
I
a good
would
web
be.
sleuth.
I don't think of any of that stuff.
I think it's because, like I said, even though I'm into the woo woo, I am a natural skeptic and don't
That's
trust
true.
anybody.
And I'm just like, oh yeah, that's ghosts.
I'm like,
There's
yeah,
ghosts
I'm like,
in her
having
body.
a ghost
Totally.
happen. Absolutely, she was 1,000%.
But I think, but for me, when you explore every other possibility and then you can exclude them, that's when you've got like.
That's why I think
the
they did
real
such a good
stuff.
job
Yeah.
of explaining it, because that's
Yeah.
what they did. They brought up every single possibility, including the whole thing about the freaking address, zip code that went to the grave site. Did you guys see that part?
Yes.
Something they put into Google Maps, and something it like targeted like the graveyard that she was buried in.
Yeah.
I thought that the tuberculosis vaccine that was like her name but reversed was a very odd.
Yeah, like
coincidence.
some of those conspiracies, you're like, that's a stretch.
Like,
I was like, yeah.
no.
But I mean, it's
Just
obviously
like, I don't know that like if they wanted to name a tuberculosis medication after her, that just swapping the name would be like, nobody will figure this out.
Not with the
Come on.
internet.
Yeah.
Nobody
No.
will figure it
Nobody will
out.
figure it out. Just
Yeah.
some of the things you're like, okay, that's a little over the top, but they did a good job
Right.
knocking all of them out until we
Yeah.
had what made sense. And I'm a little bummed out that that's what made sense.
Yeah, me too.
But it
But-
did make sense, and I do
It did.
think,
It's
with her,
sad.
So
unfortunately,
sad. I just was like, how's her family handling this fucking thing coming
Dude.
out? I'm sure they don't. I'm sure they ignore it. But I was just like, oh.
So Lindsay is also the person that like, you make my heart happy kind of person. Like anytime I'm like, oh, Emily, she's like, Emily, it's okay.
But Tori, she's a demon.
Well,
then there's
what I was gonna
Tori.
say, and then
Yes,
you're
Tori.
also, when it comes to telling stories, it's funny because you're the person that wants to find the logical explanation, and then I'm the person that when you're telling a story, I want to know why things are supposed to be a certain way and not the other way, which is why when I said earlier, I'm not being a dick. I honestly am like, well, why? I just want to know. So
I bet you were a joy to your teachers in school.
Oh yeah. I specifically remember not saying the Pledge of Allegiance because I would
Hell
say,
yeah.
I would say,
Hell yeah.
why? Like, no one explained to me why I had to do that. So I'm just aimlessly doing it. And
I think that it's super creepy that we make kids recite the Pledge of Allegiance. It's a really creepy indoctrination for something that they don't have the cognitive ability to understand the words that they are saying. And
that's the only reason I didn't was because I was like, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I just don't understand.
No,
like,
I get it. I'm with you.
I am glad you have that perspective.
That's why on the podcast,
it's
I feel like
perfect.
I have to say, I'm totally not
It's
saying
just
it
who you
should
are.
be. I just want to know why things are supposed to be a certain way.
I appreciate it.
I'm a very black and white person, though. My therapist is like, there are gray areas. I'm like, but why?
Yeah. Shinley's like,
fucking
but are there?
Yeah.
And I'm just
You're
the
all
gray.
gray.
I'm just
You're
gray.
all
Yeah,
gray.
you're all gray.
You're
I'm
black and white.
You're logical. You're like a really logical,
I'm
like
colorful.
Yeah.
Because I'm the town.
You're a rainbow.
But I thought it was so funny because even in therapy, my therapy sessions have stopped going from like talking about the problems to me saying like, okay, and there is this problem, so why am I like, can you tell me why I'm responding to it this way? Or like why responding to it this way would be better? Like I just gotta know all the angles. So that was our shooting the shit show? Shooting the shit mini-sode. So this wasn't about really anything in particular. We just kind of wanted to touch on a few weird things that are going on in the world. A bunch of things. We just kind of wanted to shoot the shit. So we made a shoot the shit show. So if you liked this episode, let us know. Please leave a comment. You can follow us on Instagram at Three's a Crime. You can email us at threesacrime@gmail.com. You can follow us on Podbean and Spotify and all over the place. And also leave us 5 stars. And if you leave us anything less, I will literally just snap.
And send us emails. Like, give us some feedback. Let us know what you think of the stories. If there's a story you really want to hear, especially if you are a Patreon.
Yeah, Kathy.
Do your story. So, Kathy, what story do you want us to do?
Yeah, maybe she should pick our last. She's the first. I think she should maybe, if she has anyone special.
Yeah,
she
she
should
wants
be able
us
to
to
pick
cover.
it. She's
Yeah.
the first.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
We're done. Okay, bye.